Stop Killing Games is back in the limelight, with a whole bunch of drama surrounding it yet again. So why not talk about it some more? For the two people that haven't heard of this yet, SKG is a campaign led by Ross Scott, a YouTuber who just wants games to actually be playable. It is an open request to start the conversation surrounding the regulation of these actions, ensuring that developers have a proper end-of-life plan in place once the game's support is over. And for some, this was somehow a bad thing. One voice against this campaign was YouTube Shorts' favourite quote-unquote game developer, Pirate Software. See, Thor worked at Blizzard and his dad was the South Park guy, so it makes sense to believe everything he says about SKG and how it would harm these developers and their games. What Ross aimed to do with these petitions was to get government bodies to understand the issues in place with these online-only games once they reach end of life. The biggest culprit of this, and the catalyst for the movement, was The Crew, an online racing game that completely shut down in 2024, leaving absolutely nothing left to play. No offline mode, no private server hosting, nothing. Just a broken menu telling you that you cannot connect to the servers. And this is a game that people paid for. Their money went into a product that was taken away from them without anything they could do. And just recently, it was announced that Anthem, a game that is only 6 years old, is being completely shut down next January, and none of the game will be accessible at all. So for those that have spent up to $70 on this game, they will have absolutely nothing in return. And that's not even the worst offender. Multiversus, a free-to-play fighting game that launched after a long beta period in May of 2024, was shut down in May of 2025 after some disastrous, greedy schemes by the developers, including wiping away items that people spent real money on. And then there's the absolute train wreck that is Concord. Everyone knows the story by now. A AAA hero shooter published by Sony, launched on the 23rd of August 2024 and subsequently unlaunched just 12 days later, going down in history as one of the biggest failures in gaming history. The only nice thing to say about it was that Sony refunded everybody who bought the game and had to eat the losses of its 8-year development and took the number 2 spot in the shortest living online games, just behind The Culling 2. Now, servers cost money, and large AAA games cost a lot of money. And I understand that games like The Crew, 10 years after release, weren't really making any money to justify the cost of said servers. So from a business perspective, they were absolutely in the right to cut costs. The initiative is not trying to force these developers to pay for servers until the end of time. That just doesn't make sense. But that was one of the points that opposing members were trying to take and spin as a downside to this movement. What these developers should have instead is a way to enable the gameplay, even in a limited capacity, without the use of official servers. Now, this is a blanket request, and different games obviously require different approaches to this. You can't just say that all gameplay must work offline, or that they have to release the server files, because there isn't a single implementation that would work for a battle royale and an MMO. What's important is both the developers and players understand what will happen once the game is shut down, what features won't work properly, and what gameplay will be affected. But shutting down a game's servers isn't actually the only way the games are being destroyed. What we are seeing more and more with live service games is the fact that once an update comes out for a game, that is the new one you have to play. Now, for the most part, this makes sense as updates generally fix issues and improve gameplay. However, some games have actually taken this a step further. Two prime examples are Overwatch 2 and Counter-Strike 2. These are both sequels to their previously successful games, Overwatch and Counter-Strike Global Offensive respectively. But they aren't really sequels at all, and instead are just large-scale updates. There is currently no official way to play Overwatch at all, as Blizzard completely shut down the support for that version and moved everything to Overwatch 2. So if you want to go back to the good old times, you can't. But CS is a bit different. Global Offensive is still accessible through Steam's beta build selector, but a lot of the features have been disabled. There's no access to the inventory, no matchmaking, and you can only play local games versus bots or find a game on community servers. And I have to say, aside from the fact that Global Offensive is delisted and relies on the beta system to access, this is actually a decent example of how to sunset a game properly. The game doesn't rely on anything Valve related, it can still be played with friends or a community, and as long as Valve don't remove the build from Steam, can be played whenever you like. So why are a lot of AAA studios lobbying against this movement? Well, obviously the answer is money. Planning for the inevitable shutdown will cost the developers more time and money than if they just switched it off and called it a day, especially on projects that aren't even close to being profitable. But that's mostly down to the fact that they would have to retroactively fit in this alternative to existing games as they never planned for it, which isn't actually something SKG wants to enforce, it's only looking at new titles. If SKG were to be acted upon and developers adapted their systems during the early stages of development, a lot of time and money would be saved on this process, making the complaint a little pointless. Another issue that these companies have pointed at is the fact that licenses expire. For music, vehicles, or other real-world brands, they wouldn't be able to support these licenses forever. This is another thing that does seem plausible. However, the license agreement just means that they can no longer sell the game with that media in place. I can still play along to Fat Lip by Sum 41 in Guitar Hero. I'm sure they're not paying for that license anymore. And so, they have two options for this. Either remove the licensed media and replace it with something generic, or stop selling the game to comply with the license agreement. One issue that seems like a bit of a weird argument is that the developers would not be able to ensure the quality and moderation of third-party servers, and the game experience could differ from their own. This could be in the form of hate and abuse, cybersecurity, or it could be that the gameplay is modified in some way that isn't representative of the actual game. I understand that they could be seen liable in some form, and they simply don't want to deal with the potential of any lawsuits that could occur. However, it seems like they could easily cover themselves legally with disclaimers telling the player that they are not moderating a third-party server and these things could occur. Lots of games already have this warning for multiplayer experiences. Back in the day when I would join a Gmod server and there would be obscene map designs or dodgy sprays everywhere, I wouldn't think that Gary was putting them there himself. Developers already bury thousands of disclaimers and cover themselves legally in their terms of service pop-ups that would protect them in a court case, so I don't see how that's any different here. But the biggest cry from the industry is that it will completely kill live service games, as they all require server-side functionality to run. So I wanted to go through one of the biggest live service games of all time, Fortnite, break down what elements would be affected by a server shutdown, and discuss ways in which Epic Games could create a game that would still be functional without any server-side cost to them. Now, I don't actually see Fortnite going away anytime soon because V-Bucks and the Battle Passes make about $1 billion every day, but this is just hypothetical nonsense, so that doesn't matter. As soon as the game opens up, you are connected to their servers, and basically everything on screen is a part of that. Your account is pulled up, which includes your name, rank, your stats, and your skins. Obviously, none of this would be accessible anymore, and Epic would have a choice to make it at this point. Your name could just be stored locally, but the rank and stats would probably just be disabled, as there's no central server to track them anymore. Features like this are okay to be cut, as they don't really impact the playability of a game, and are more of a nice to have little extra. But the skins are very debatable. The first thing would probably be to cut out any involving licensed characters, or ensure that they are licensed to remain indefinitely after the game is delisted. The store would not be accessible, and you couldn't purchase V-Bucks anymore. It's then a big grey area whether or not removing skins that people have paid for with V-Bucks is acceptable or not. So they would either have to unlock every skin for everyone, somehow keep track locally of what skins have been unlocked and add a reward system to unlock more, or revert everyone to the default skin and call it a day. Any of these would be better than the alternative of nothing at all, and if planned for from day one, would be just fine to implement. The menu would have to be scrapped and changed for a much more simplified one that doesn't include the lobbies, game modes and ranked, as all of that is obviously sorted server side, and instead would function more like a traditional multiplayer game. Losing matchmaking and ranked is perfectly fine, as that's what happens to most multiplayer games, but there would instead need to be a way to host and join third-party servers instead. This could be done by either having a way to connect by IP or domain, like most old games, where you join a lobby that instantly starts a round of Battle Royale, and the server host configures everything their end, or it could even be handled one step further. So you set a connection in the menu and you connect to a third-party service that handles lobbies, stats and matchmaking for you instead. These again would obviously have to be planned and implemented beforehand, but it would just be a case of pointing the game to a third-party server instead of Epic's own when the game launches. If Epic decided that they wouldn't want to release any server files at all, they could make it so that you can only play a condensed version of the game offline against bots, which are already in the game, or add a way to be able to play on a local network, which would then allow players to connect via LAN or use networking services to connect to each other remotely. Ultimately, Stop Killing Games isn't trying to enforce any specific ruling on developers, and it's just trying to get them to be clear on what will happen eventually and how it will affect the end product. If the company simply stated that the servers will only run for X amount of time after launch and makes the consumers aware of this, that's at least a step in the right direction. If they were to release server binaries to go alongside this shutdown, this would be an amazing solution for most games. Or if even a small part of a game is still playable offline, even if it offers a lesser experience. It's pretty bad when a game's servers are shut down and all the users are asking for is to still have something left over when it happens. But let me know what you think about all this. Leave a comment down below. It's always interesting reading other people's thoughts on the matter. And let's end this video with another round of subscriber wars. And here we go, back for another round of subscriber wars. We got plenty of competitors in the arena today, like Jake Lee and Marlene S, 2 VIPs there. And Mark Davis, who didn't fare too well on his debut. Let's see how he does this time around. All the competitors are ready, so let's get this fight underway. I've accidentally spawned 2 of every competitor. Hold on. Okay, I think I deleted the duplicates. Now we're ready. Let's get it started. There we go. They are off straight away. Everyone's getting involved in the action there. Fraser Brown fighting against David Marrow. I think Fraser Brown is going to come out on top. He was a strong competitor last time, but he's going to die very soon. Look at that health bar. It's very low. The zone is shrinking and already plenty of bodies gone down. They're going to fight at this bridge like they usually do. The center of the map. There goes Fraser. Oh, they both died in that combat there. That is unfortunate. There's not too many competitors left to go, but there is still Tom Proudfoot, VIP, in the bottom left. Mike Z there fighting in the middle. I'm not sure if there's anyone else left alive. There is. There's a few on the outskirts. Still fighting. The zone is shrinking. They're standing outside it. It's only Mike Z actually in the zone at the minute. Tom is going to slide his way in the zone. Is he? Or is he just going to tank the damage from that zone very slowly with his VIP health? It seems that's the case. They don't seem very interested. There's a few more people actually on the outside there. Vialtino, Mingle, IQ, NeoWare, they're all sort of outside the map. More fighting. It looks like Tom is going to win it. Don't know if there's any more after these 3, but Minga's getting some stabs in. Does go down. NeoWare, though, is very low on health, but so is Tom. Will he come out on top or not? Is that it? Oh, that's not even it. There are people still out in the zone, taking damage very slowly. Harry Sandro there is going to fight and does actually take Tom down. It seems, ooh, that's very sketchy. I think he's going to die to the zone. It should be doing damage to him. Maybe the damage is actually bugged. Who knows? It might be because they are all living outside this zone. They don't really seem to care about it. Cecilia, Denise, and Eslam Kafagi, they might be the last 2. I'm not sure. Is that it? Oh, what a disastrous round of subscriber wars this is. Who's left? Is anyone? Ah, there it is. What a disastrous round of subscriber wars this has been. But if I make my way up top, my very slow panning camera, Doge's cut is sitting behind a box. He seems to have spawned in a place where he cannot move. Seems stuck behind that barrel there.
12 seconds later.
Back to the game. He dies. And there we go. Eslam Kafagi is the winner. Congratulations to Eslam. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. So that is all for today. Thanks for listening to my rambling. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon for some random bonus content. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.